This is Idan Morim, a very, very good friend of mine, amazing guitar player, artist, musician, and composer. I'll link some of his stuff and music down below so you can check him out. And man, you were just telling me a really great story, and I think it would be, yeah, just share.
Yeah. So I was very lucky to go to a really good arts high school, and the music department was killing. One day, auditioning for a performance opportunity, I stepped in with a singer, and I got some of the best advice that I've ever gotten in my life that kind of informed how I think about playing ever since.
Yeah.
We were playing the song, just me and the singer, so I was accompanying, kind of strumming on an acoustic guitar. And what one of the teachers told me is that he told me, you have to be aware of the fact that when it's just you and another person, you are the drummer, bassist, and piano player of the band. You are the entire rhythm section. Yeah. And it is your responsibility to convey that feeling of rhythm in the most solid way possible so that everything above it can kind of bloom. And so focusing myself in the rhythm, in the idea of imitating a drum beat with my instrument, yeah, has informed my playing in a very positive way since.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story, and clearly, I mean, that affected you throughout your life just because of that experience. And you know, we talked about it because we were both just talking and having coffee earlier, and you know, the idea of being stuck in a position, being not really improvising, kind of playing the same licks, is something that, you know, happens to a lot of people in different stages of their lives, and it doesn't need to be that way. We can all be free, actually, and it doesn't matter if you just want to play some blues and some lines, and even if you just, you know, improvising with one key center, it's great. It's not a problem. On the contrary.
So it transcends style or complexity. It doesn't matter which style you're playing, and it doesn't matter how many chords are behind you. This principle kind of stands true all the time.
Yeah, and I think it really helped both of us separately, and many friends and colleagues, I would say, to get really comfortable with the instrument. So just with no further ado, we want to share a few of those points that really will allow a lot of freedom and kind of killing improvisation to be happening quite quickly. So yeah, let's check it out. I'm curious, how are you thinking? What's the first step? Because you mentioned, like, you know, an exercise that you had in mind to as a first step to show the folks here.
Right. So if you're playing a complex harmonic situation like a jazz standard, that's a little bit of a separate thing. But let's assume just for a second that our harmonic environment is very much simple and the same. For example, maybe even something as ubiquitous as Stairway to Heaven solo section, right? We've got 3 chords, A minor, G major, and F major, all in the same key center of A minor/C major. Mm-hmm. And so if you're employing the pentatonic box on the 5th fret, for example, there's not many note considerations that you have to make. So what you're 5 notes. So what you're left with now is the rhythm. Now, if musicians who are not very rhythmically aware would often result into filling the space between their ideas with muscle memory. And the problem with that is that it can often be this kind of like a junk volume a little bit, where you're just throwing notes out of your hands. And the problem with that is that these phrases are often rhythmically incoherent. And so if you clean that out of your playing and you mean everything you play rhythmically, I think you'll feel the effect. You'll feel the improvement kind of right away.
It sounds great. But okay.
So how do we start?
Yeah.
So I think the first step is to become very aware of each rhythmic resolution. Let's start with just quarter notes. So right now, with kind Rotem here accompanying me, I'll play a solo and I'll still try to make it as expressive as beautiful as I can, but I'm only going to use quarter notes.
Perfect.
So this is my quarter note, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
That there's a lot of music happening here already. So I think one of beautiful quotes from Stravinsky is the idea that limitations create freedom, right? So again, we are limiting ourselves right now to a simple 5-note scale, great sounding scale, the A minor pentatonic, and we're limiting ourselves to chord notes. But nevertheless, there's a lot of music happening here, and you just saw it. It's really cool, and it's important for us as improvisers to be connected to the rhythmic aspect. Any artist that we like, again, no matter what genre, I would say, if it's Jimi Hendrix or Led Zeppelin or Cat Stevens or, you know, Lionel Lueke or any musician or artist or Future or Rihanna, the rhythmic pulse, the rhythmic articulation of information is very clear and very profound. And I think this is one of the things that are most immediate for people to connect with. Again, doesn't matter if it's jazz or not jazz. And in that sense, as people who are trying to be free, creating with that framework in mind, saying like, okay, I'm just playing chord notes and I'm understanding where that pulse exists, is really helpful. I think the next step could be maybe 8 notes.
Right, so yeah, so essentially we just go up to rhythmic resolutions. We started with quarter notes, and now we're gonna cut that beat in half and have 2 notes per beat and see what that kind of feels like.
Yeah, let's do it.
Same atmosphere of only using one rhythmic resolution, right? And you can, the ear can quickly recognize that the rhythms are not changing, yet we still try to use all the other principles that we use with soloing, even with this limitation. So space, phrasing, using our ear, following our intuition, all of those are still true. We just employ them within the limitation of only playing one rhythmic resolution.
Yeah.
And maybe now we can also obviously go ahead to triplets and 16th notes.
I'm curious to try 8 notes one more time, where you maybe accent a little bit more the syncopation. Because right now, when you're playing the 8 notes, which was great and melodic, I'm curious to feel a little bit of the rub rhythmically. So just like,
it's a great idea.
Let's just try for a second, see what it gives us.
Let's see what, emphasizing more of the upbeats. Let's see where that takes us,
2, 3. That feeling of tension and release, right? And of course, I can ask Idan to do that with triplets and 16, and he'll kill it because, you know, he practiced all these things. So this is almost easy, right? But in that sense, it's still a very strong and powerful tool that I think, as musicians, as guitar players, as people who want to be more free, you should check it out because it's easy to do. You know, I know people spend a lot of hours practicing ideas and sometimes complex concepts, whereas this is very simple but super useful. So you can, you know, you might spend half an hour today and you'll actually get a lot of things done.
Right.
So.
And I agree with that, and thank you for bringing that up because I feel like it's so important. It's so easy as people who practice music professionally to get caught up in kind of like extended techniques and complicated concepts like Rotem said. And at the same time, I think it's true to most fields of professionalism, or to life in general even maybe, that the simplest principle often are the most fruitful to pursue. And so really here the idea is that you're making music with the tools you have, even if it's just one rhythmic resolution.
Yeah.
You're still making music all the time. Yeah.
100%.
And by being coherent rhythmically, you make yourself more accessible to the listener. It's completely allegorical to a person who is speaking to you. If they're speaking about an idea and they're speaking very coherently, one concept follows the other and is connected, then you can follow what they're saying. It's more interesting to listen to.
Totally. Yeah. And I think being able to articulate and, you know, create those rhythms with music and guitar makes you automatically connect to the band and connect to people, because this is, like Idan was saying, the kind of like AB of or the alphabet of communication. So it's really important. Let's try triplets. Let's see how that sounds. 1, 2, Triplets are a huge deal, especially when you're talking about jazz, actually, but not just in jazz. Naturally, it's something that occurs everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
And I think maybe a great thing to try and do before we jump forward is to understand the triplet and the subdivision. So let me play just the groove on one chord for a second, and maybe you can play the subdivisions and explain how you would practice it.
Right. So when I sit with the metronome, which is now a much better thing than a metronome, is a friend, but whoever is there with you, you really want to spend a lot of time with each resolution until you have a strong sense of it in your body. So in this case, triplets. This is my quarter note, so ta te te 1 2 3 1 2 3 triplet, right? So I would start by just very simply playing it. And by all means, feel free to do this for a good 5 minutes if you have the privilege of making that kind of noise.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. And I really like that you're playing one note. This is one of the exercises I really like doing. Just the idea of like, before we go in trying to play the shape, if you will, is like feeling and understanding. And you can even go one step back, you know, and say like, this is our pause, and just saying 1 2 3 1 2 3 taki ta taki ta taki. Just feeling that kind of like feeling. And I like feeling it. I like thinking about the pause as this like sort of like loop almost, or like this kind of thing. And within that, you can put different things. It could be 1 2 ta, like quarters or something, you know, or taki ta 1 2 3, or ta whatever. Different things can be inside.
And I like that I didn't even think about it, but I like that you highlighted the fact that I used one note, because I think, me personally, I'm a really slow learner. And so it really behooves me if I put my ego aside and allow my brain to learn really gradually. And so if the focus is understanding triplets, I don't need variety of pitch right now. What I need is a strong sense of how that pulse feels, how that rhythmic division feels.
Yeah.
And then I think another thing you can do that's really helpful is omit one of the 3 notes in the triplets and see how each version feels. So 1 2 3 is what we just did, then maybe just 2 3, or maybe just like 1 and 2, or maybe just 1 and 3. Can't quite do that with my fingers, but you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Should we try some of that?
Let's try. I just want to even reinforce what he just said, just because what Idan said about taking our time, you know, and being a slow learner. I mean, we're all slow learners, right? And I think that's the mindset that we need to be in, and allowing that space. And I love that you said, because this is stuff I think about all the time. And I mean, stuff we talk about here in the channel, but it's really good to kind of pay attention to that moment and seeing like somebody from the outside just saying it as well, and really seeing things alike. So it's cool. Let's do it. Yeah. So I'll just keep the pulse and you hit it.
Cool. So this is all 3. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. This is omitting the 1. Right? 2 3 2 3 1 2 3. Let's bring the 1 back. Now let's omit the 3. 1 2 3 3 3 3 3 3 3. Let's bring it back. And now we're gonna omit the 2. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1. Now after I've done that, and this is an abbreviated version, so please spend a lot of time doing this at home, feeling how each division feels. And now once you've gotten somewhat comfortable with the whole idea of triplets, you can start putting some pitches to the rhythms.
Yeah, and of course, what we want, the end result and the end goal for us is to be free. And the reason that we're trying to look at it in different ways is just because when you're improvising, you might want to grab that sound. And when you're listening to Slash playing a solo, he's actually doing that, you know? So the reason is very much anchored in reality. to be free and to express what, you know, when you listen to Jimi Hendrix or you know, B.B. King or all the artists that are connected to guitar history. So this is what happens. So that's why. Let's do it.
So I'll start by just taking the scale up and down. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm using the simplest, most familiar pentatonic box here. Now I can start doing some editing, still pretty much up and down, but I'm playing around with it.
Please take your time, and you know, I'll add a little link to a groove so you can mess around with these ideas. Take your time and you know, try to connect to that rhythmic entity and make sure you can switch between those 8 notes and triplets and feel them. If you can, it will open up your playing, you know, very honestly.
Yeah, again, it's hard to overstate how important it is to be rhythmically clear in your playing. Everything kind of is rooted there for me personally. It's the meter that I use to determine my level of coherence in a playing situation. And another thing that it helps me with is when I am accountable rhythmically, I don't just throw hands around, meaning I don't resolve to muscle memory as much, because I keep my mind focused on my rhythmic possibilities, right? Quarter notes, 8th notes, triplets, 16th notes, and everything that might come in between. And I am pouring my expression through that lens. And so everything hopefully falls in a somewhat coherent place.
Totally. I mean, I feel you. And I think, again, rhythm and being clear and being honest with yourself to what is need to be done here is sort of like the alphabet of communication. So in order to feel free, in order to progress more with these simple elements, I think this is a great place to spend 15-20 minutes, half an hour. If you have a little more time, great, but you know, if you have that time, do that.
Yeah. I think maybe a good checkpoint you can form with yourself is, when you play, if I stopped you at any given point in your solo, would you be able to tell me which rhythmic resolution you were just playing in? And that doesn't mean that you have to transform your playing into this heady intellectual thing. It just means that for that time of integrating this practice, you really want to be hyper aware of rhythm.
Yeah. Let's try for a second to add the 16 note into the mix here. So I'll comp, and maybe you can start with 16 notes and then mix all these 3 subdivisions. So quarter notes, 8 notes, triplets, and 16.
Right on.
So, of course, the faster it is, a little bit more technical work needs to be done. But to be honest, once the basic subdivision of chord notes and 8 notes and triplets are starting to be clear, the 16 note would be not hard at all. And once the shape and the colors and the sounds in your ears are more clear, all this will come pretty easily. So I think it's not scary, and it's a great tool to, you know, progress with improvisation. I just can't say that word.
It's a hard one.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Yeah, so again, thank you so much. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
pleasure to be here. Big
honor.
fan of the page.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll see you guys very soon. I'll again have links for his stuff and his music, so please check it out. And thank you. Peace. Let's jam a little more, maybe.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.